Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be going over the 9.13 patch notes. As always, you can find timestamps in the description if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. And don't forget, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It's free, it's easy, it just takes a couple of clicks and really helps out a ton. So be sure to hit that if you watch a lot of content on the channel. Okay, let's go ahead and get back in here. So I'm not going to talk a lot about teamfight tactics. I have been studying it a little bit over the past couple of days. I will play once it's released on the patch tomorrow. I might do it on stream. We'll do like a straw poll or something and see what people want to watch. If they want to watch some teamfight tactics or if they want to watch ranked, or we can split it up. We'll just kind of get a feel for the people that are watching on stream over the next few days. And I will definitely come out with a guide on it once I get a little more practice on it. From what I've seen so far, there are some pretty overpowered things in there, but it seems like there's also some pretty good diversity among different strategies. It seems like Garen is really powerful, probably on the overpowered side early, and he does combine well into Knights with Darius early on, which gives you a really good early game, and both of those can transition into pretty decent mid-game strategies. I know Noble is all right as well, and then one of the more popular strategies is like Wild plus Dragons is pretty strong also. So it seems like there are some dominant strategies, but it also looks like it's pretty diverse. I've seen a bunch of different videos trying different strategies. So just be sure to come by the stream over the next few days. Check it out. We'll probably be trying it out a little bit, and then I'll have a more detailed guide about that once I've practiced it a little bit more and sort of get the hang of some of the different strategies. But it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty fun. So we'll try that out, and I'll have more information on that in a separate video later. Okay. That is coming out on this patch. So it's going to release tomorrow. So that's Wednesday, the 26th, if you're in the United States. So that's when you can start playing that once it's out of the beta. I didn't practice it a lot in the beta because the queue times would take forever. And there's just not like good matchmaking on the beta either. I don't know. There's still a lot of bugs. There's some balance issues, but we'll play it when it comes to live tomorrow a little bit. Okay, Qiyana. I think she's going to come in at under 45% win rate right off the bat. I think she's very difficult to play. I haven't watched a ton of videos on her either, once again, for similar reasons, is I just kind of wanted her to show up on live. She's really not my style of champion, so I'm probably not going to personally play her a lot, but once I play against her a little bit and get a sense when there's proper matchmaking of what's going on with her, then, you know, we'll see. But I suspect she'll be sub 45%, possibly even sub 40% on release, because she's very difficult to play and she seems very unforgiving if you mess her up. So she strikes me a lot as almost like an Akali 2.0 type of champion, where it seems like she has quite a bit of mobility. You know, with this, she can dash forward, doesn't have to have a target, and then you can get a reset whenever you use one of your elementals. But the second one isn't a dash. It's you hurl your blade, I believe. Closest target. So, yeah, it consumes her current element, which detonates in a line. So I don't think that she dashes and throws it. I think she just throws it. But I'd have to, once again, I haven't studied a lot about her. I've just kind of read what's here and just sort of try to figure out what's going on. And, of course, I watched the trailer or whatever earlier. But she's got some mobility here. She's got a dash there. Her audacity is another dash, although it has to be towards a fixed target. It looks like she's pretty squishy. Like, her base armor is really low, although she does have pretty decent health to start with and okay health regen. I think if anywhere, she's going to be played in the jungle most likely, and I would guess as an assassin build, like Dustblade, Ghostblade build, although maybe something like a, you know, maybe she could go something like a Black Cleaver Death Stance build. But yeah, I think probably Dustblade, especially because she can go invisible with this. If you get a brush elemental, then you can open up with a hit first, proc your Dustblade once, then go invisible into a brush and proc it again, kind of like a Kha'Zix type of thing. So I think that Dustblade will be pretty standard on her, and then Ghostblade is pretty good as well. Seems like she has okay base damages on her abilities, and then you know, she gets pretty good ratios as well. But, you know, like I said, kind of like a Akali, you have to chain a lot of your abilities together, and it looks like weave your auto attacks in there to really take advantage of Royal Privilege. Now, this is on target cooldown, not total cooldown. So you want to be hitting multiple targets in Teamfight. So Qiyana's next basic attack or damaging ability against it a target unit deals this. Now, I'm not sure because some of these are AoE abilities. So, like, if Royal Privilege, if you use that on, like, multiple targets with your edge here, for example, or with this, if that hits everybody with the passive, or if it just hits the first person that's hit by it, it's not really clear here. Once again, haven't watched a ton of footage about it. But the fact that whenever you use an element or change it, it resets it. So you have to not only try to hit as many targets as you can, sort of with your abilities to do this extra damage. I guess as long as it's not on cooldown, it would trigger. So if you hit 5 people with a multi-target ability like Edge of Ixtol, I believe it would trigger on all of them to deal the bonus damage. It's low enough to where it looks like, or it starts off low enough to where it looks like it could potentially hit multiple targets. Then, so you could do multiple damage with Edge. It would reset your Royal Privilege, and then you could reset this as well, do more multiple damage. So there's just all sorts of combos you can do with her depending on, you know, whichever element you decide to pick up and how often you reset Royal Privilege, how many different people are in fights, how well you use the reset of Edge of Ixtol, and that you're making the right decision here. That you're really utilizing sort of this bonus movement speed and figuring out exactly when you want to grab another element. So in theory, I guess you could have an element stored and then do something like use your Edge of Ixtol to get close to somebody, you know, go invisible using your second Edge of Ixtol with the brush, then Terra Shape, grab another thing like from a wall or something, and then use another Edge of Ixtol to execute them to do that 50% damage off of using a wall. So it looks like you could do upon gathering an element. Oh, it's only when you gather it, it resets it. So if you have one stored, it doesn't reset it. Okay. So I guess you'd have to come in with one stored, use the active, brush, go invisible like that, then grab another one with Terra Shape, preferably like a wall or something, and then get the execute off of grabbing this again. So it's just going to be extremely complicated. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that if you're going to play her, you definitely want to play her in normals first if you care about your elo. I think this is one of the more complicated champions. I feel like she's going to be up there with like Akali, Rise, in terms of like making decisions, sequencing, mechanics, resetting abilities, having all kinds of different options. So I think she'll be really fun for assassin players, but I think she'll have a huge learning curve to her. And I'm just going to have to see what people come up with in action, because there's just so many different things going on here. And I haven't played her enough or played against her enough to really have the best stuff. But like I said, it would probably be, I imagine, max Q, because that's the thing that's going to be getting reset, that you're going to cast twice often in fights. Probably max Q, and then it's tough to say after that whether it casting this during Audacity will aim at the target. I'm not sure after that what you'll get. You do want to grab as many of these as possible, but it doesn't change the cooldown. It's always 7 seconds. So I think this would probably be what you max last. So probably max Q, then max E. And then it looks like some of her combos would probably revolve around early on in the fight, activating this brush so that you get bonus movement speed and invisibility so that people can't really fight you back. So just going in, doing some damage, and then grabbing this elemental here. Rory, look, it's a banana. Oh, hopefully she doesn't mute it. My daughter's down here goofing around. Isn't that right, Rory? You goofing around? Yeah. Eating BBs. Oh, let me move this over. I forgot to move that out of the way too. Sorry. Y'all couldn't read the ability there for a second, but you can read it on your own time. I mean, the bottom line's extremely complicated. I think the best combo will probably be Duskblade, Ghostblade on her. So probably like Warrior into Duskblade, Ghostblade. I don't know if she's going to have to go Tiamat to clear. Not sure about her wave clear. I think, because it says this is reduced by 75% against subsequent targets. But it seems like she should be good at farming towards the target unit. So it looks like she does a lot of single target stuff. I'm not seeing a lot of AoE damage here. So I'm not sure how her clear speed's going to be. Maybe her clear is so bad that you can't play her. Maybe she has to be top lane. Because it doesn't look like she has a lot of wave clear. But anyways, probably Warrior, Dustblade, Ghostblade, I would guess. And then Max Q, Max E, then W. And then a lot of combos will probably start off with Brush for the invisibility. Although it's possible that maybe you want the Root instead, depending on how much CC your lane has that you're ganking, or if it's a solo lane. And then probably grab a wall, so probably like Brush to get in there, and then grab a wall after that. And then go for the execute. But we'll just have to see how she goes. But yeah, I would suspect almost certainly below 45% and probably below 40% win rate in the first week or so. But I think she'll settle in at kind of like the Akali Rise type of range, you know, the 45 to 47% win rate. I would be shocked if she's over 50% win rate at any point. I mean, her numbers would just have to be through the roof because people are going to be screwing her up left, right, and center. And she's going to be banned a lot in the first week, too, in ranked, certainly. So we'll see how she goes. But it's just hard to tell, like, what the exact potential is. I think she'll probably be good in the right hands, like an Akali type of player, someone who puts in the time to master her. She'll probably be pretty good, fun to watch, fun to play if you get good on her. But very bad for the vast majority of the population. Okay, Corki, ARAM stuff, whatever, and then you can see your ammo bar. I think the enemy will be able to see that as well. Decent quality of life. Now, this is actually kind of nice that Crescent Strike travels a little bit faster, so you can do your combo faster. I'm not sure how much faster. Probably not much. Okay. Better aim. This kind of stuff is very difficult to quantify just how good this is going to be for her. The fact that it reveals Fog of War for a short duration, even if you don't hit anybody, is what this sounds like, is actually quite good. That'll allow her to check Brush a little bit more. I still think she's not going to be that strong. She's almost always a champion that's hovering around like a 50% win rate. I'm not sure what her overall win rate is right now. But she's just like pretty simple to play overall and very snowball dependent. If she gets ahead, you know, she can completely take over the game, but she's just very risky. And so, Rory, what do you want? You want up? Yeah, she's at 51%, so pretty standard. So I don't think this is going to move the needle much. Maybe she goes to 52, 51, 52. She's very oppressive when she's ahead, but she's pretty bad if she gets camped or if she falls behind, or in just certain types of team comps, right, Rory? No typing. You can watch, but you gotta not type. Now, these Illaoi changes are a little bit mysterious, and I tried to look on the wiki earlier, and it had not been updated yet. On the PBE, it had said they were getting rid of the AD ratio on her tentacles, but it doesn't appear that they're actually doing that. So they're just flat giving her an AP ratio just to bait people into buying Gunblade or something, I guess. I don't know. It seems bad. I mean, like, I don't think you want AP on her. I don't know what else other than Gunblade would have AP and AD that would be something you might be interested in. You wouldn't want, like, Rageblade or anything on her. I don't know. They're just kind of throwing in a troll AP ratio just to see if somebody comes up with a build on her. But nothing else has an AP ratio on her. That's it. The tentacles. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. I'm sure people will try. There'll probably be some all-capsers. Right, Rory? There's some all-capsers. Yeah, are you an all-capser? Yeah. She's got about the emotion of some all-capsers here. I want something awesome. I want something cool and different. Honey, can you get her? Like, feed her or something? Rory, here, look what I got. That's right, it's a bar. If you're quiet and you behave, you can have this bar. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah, that'll keep her busy. Yeah. Give her a little treat. She likes that. That's right. So I don't think that's going to matter. Tentacles are no longer in an idle state is interesting. I think that means that they can autonomously push, but you can't control where they are. So it's kind of interesting if you want to I don't know, like push a wave in and they go roam, then those tentacles could also push for you while you're away for 30 seconds if they don't clear them. So... Well, she's freaking out. We got to have something to deal with her. Yeah, so it could be like if you could leave them and they would just autonomously push the lane for you while you're backing or something. I'm not really sure. Like a little mini ZZ Rock portal or something. Yeah, yummy, yummy, right, Rory? Is that yummy, yummy? So yeah, I'm not really sure. I feel like that's not going to matter that much in most circumstances, but I guess it could. You want down, Rory? You want to go see what Mommy's doing? What's Mommy doing? You got your bar? She might have some water for you in there. You want some water? She's like, I just wanted the bar and I'm out. Peace. So, I don't know if that's going to matter too much. She can ping stuff, okay. Tentacles despawn after Illaoi's left an area for 30 seconds. They don't last as long, but in theory, they still attack when you're not there. Enemies gain vision of tentacles through fog of war. Okay, whatever. Champions no longer globally get vision. That's good. Fixed a bug where tentacle slams that were mid-flight when Illaoi died dealt no damage. Okay, so you have a chance to get some of those close kills again. Harsh lesson probably doesn't matter. It does do extra damage to turrets. So you do get a little bit of extra damage to turrets. So that's cool. Spirit duration, vessel duration. It's not going to matter. I don't, especially the spirit duration, because they run out of this thing almost instantly. Like, nobody stays in there for 7 seconds. Either they die and try to fight you, or they run out of it and get affected by the vessel. Now, this lasting 10 seconds, so I'm not sure how many of these. I think you'll get 2 spawns anyways. I don't think it's going to matter that much. Leap of Faith. Now, once every 5 seconds between tentacle attacks. So that means they attack double speed, but the thing is, like, the cooldown starts after its last attack, and your W also triggers them to attack, and your W's on, like, a 2-second cooldown or something. And so, like, if you're actually fighting the person, that cooldown, the 10 seconds never matters because, or even cutting it down to 5 seconds never matters because you're going to be attacking every 5 seconds anyways. They don't get a double attack in there as often, right? So if you use your W to reset, it resets the auto attack timer on it whenever you do that. So what I mean is, you know, if 4 seconds rolls around and you W them, it's not going to attack again on the 5th second. It's going to reset and be 5 seconds after the last time they attacked. So if this sounds cool in theory, like, oh my god, they're attacking twice as fast, but in reality, most of the time, it's not going to matter. The only time this will matter is if they don't clear the tentacles and when they're just spawning away from you, where you can't trigger them with your W. So it's okay. Once again, this might matter autonomously, that they attack every 5 seconds if they're just automatically pushing waves. I'll have to see it in action, but from what I read, it really doesn't seem like it's going to matter that much. You could get up to 6 tentacles, almost never going to happen. Basically, if you hit all 5 people plus a spirit, you would get 6 tentacles now. Probably not going to matter. Leap of Faith no longer despawns mid-attack. Leap of Faith tentacles no longer despawn mid-attack if Illaoi commands them to slam with Harsh Lesson. I assume this doesn't mean despawn. I don't think I've ever seen the tentacles despawn if someone doesn't auto-attack reset correctly with W. I think what they mean is it no longer stops the attack mid-attack. It now queues it up so that it'll attack and then attack again, I think. Because it said it was on a queue system when I was reading Illaoi. So what does this mean overall? Nothing. I think she's basically going to be the same champion. I mean, there's a couple of these bugs, depending on how big they were. Like, this one's pretty big that She can now kill people if she's going to die a little bit easier, gets a little bit more tower push. Whatever this means sounds good. But she's still got similar problems where she is very vulnerable. She can get poked out. If people just play around the tentacles, if they play around your ult, it's pretty weak overall. I do think that she could be a good pick against melee supports bottom if you have a Draven on your team as a support. I did that in the past some, and that worked out pretty well. You do get extra gold with Klepto, which is pretty nice, and she does have really good push with her Q, and she has pretty good team fighting. She doesn't have a lot of CC, so you really have to dominate the lane, but that's possible. I have seen some good Illaoi's top. Like, in theory, I think she can be good into things like Darius or Mordekaiser. But overall, she's still... That's so many changes that I think you're going to have virtually no outcome. Like, I don't think it's going to move the needle on her. Although, once again, maybe I'm wrong about that. I'll have to see it in action. But that's like 15 different changes that don't mean anything, which is bizarre. But anyways, okay, Karma's getting nerfed. She's really OP in pretty much every lane. I figured it out. I didn't get it exactly in the tier list that she was going to be tier 1, but I got it like 1 or 2 days after I released the tier list. If you watched any of the stream, I went on like an 8 or a 9 game win streak with her. She's just very, very powerful. Highest win rate support right now. Extremely high play rate, 15% at 53%. Her and Lux are kind of the twin power, champs in the bot lane right now. But it's not just that. It's also that she was one of the highest, strongest champions in the mid lane, with almost a 55% win rate mid lane with a 4% play rate, together with Lux again. So both of those are, pretty good in both of those lanes. But then also she could even go top lane, right? So she's the highest win rate top laner as well with almost 6%. So that's when you know a champion is really OP, when they're arguably the number 1 in 3 different positions and they can flex into all of those positions. It's just a nightmare, especially for pro play. She's really good in pro too. So, she's a combination of lane dominant, fairly simple to play, pretty strong scaling, lots of different ways you can play her. You can go kind of the tank version in the top lane. You can go like a heavier AP version mid lane, or you can go the support version with like Athene's and Ardent Sensor in the bot lane. There's a lot of different ways you can play her. So she's just way too strong. So they're nerfing her movement speed, 1 second on her E. This is part of what made her really strong, was it allowed her to be a lot safer in the laning phase because she could very easily run away from stuff. It also made it very easy for her to stick to you. So you were not getting away from her. If she empowered W'd, you in the top lane and then shielded to run towards you, you were going to get stunned. And she's just going to keep auto-attacking and just keep spamming all of her abilities on you. Now, this was not the only thing they buffed about her last patch. They buffed her 3 different times. So she's keeping the other 2 buffs. She's keeping the stronger slow on the Q. So that will give her still the same kiting and chase potential off of that. It's just you're not going to have as much movement speed, right? And the shield cost is still down as well. 10 mana, which allows you to trade much more aggressively, especially in top lane early on. You can really abuse that Klepto with that shield early on. And it can even be pretty good in the bot lane. So, now keep in mind that whenever you did a Mantra E, that sped your whole team up for 2.5 seconds as well. So, it's definitely going to be a nerf to her, but I think she'll still be pretty strong. Like, the meta right now, a lot of the best champions are kind of these poke and push champs, although Sivir is getting nerfed on this patch a couple of different ways. So that might change a little bit, but Caitlyn has been moving up, Jinx has been moving up, so it's kind of these longer range champions that have pretty good push are in the meta, and she's very good with those champions. And then a lot of people are playing Ezreal, even though they probably shouldn't. So there's that. But I think she'll still be good. She'll probably go down 1, maybe 2%. I'd say 1.5 to 2% off of this. But I would be surprised if she fell back below 50% at the lowest, right? I think she's going to top out around 52. I think it'll knock about 2% off of her. So we'll see how it goes. The movement speed matters, but she's still lane dominant. She still has the extra slow. She still has the shield power. They are nerfing Sona as well, so that'll pull down Sona a little bit. We'll talk about Sona here in a second. So that might create a little bit of space for her, but she needed to be nerfed. She got nerfed. I know people have been asking for me to play Karma, and they wanted her back in the meta for years and years, 3 years. Why not Karma? Why not Karma? Then she finally gets 1 patch, but they overdid it. They gave her 3 buffs. This one was the biggest one. So I think she'll still be around, but and competitive, but not oppressive, hopefully. Okay, Ornn, joke buff. Okay, you get an extra AD ratio on him. Like, you don't build AD on Ornn. Yes, that does include your base damage, you know, so it will give you, you know, a little bit of extra damage early on, right? I mean, like an extra maybe 7 damage on your Q, which does matter. But they just need to give him back his shield. Just let him trade. Make it a lower shield. Make it a weaker shield. Like, just do something to give him back his shield on his E. I think it was his E. Because right now he just can't trade. He has no shield. He has no heal. Everything is telegraphed and requires a lot of combos to work. He's just really weak. And he's a really cool, like, teamfight tank top lane. And there aren't many of those. I would really like to see them show a little love to Ornn and Malachi. Like, provide some options, you know, to these, like, klepto abusers top lane and, like, the fighters top lane. That's pretty much all it is right now. So I would like to see it. I think they could get away with it. His win rate is so low, and he's terrible in split pushing. I think they could stand to buff up Ornn and Malachi a little bit more, but whatever. Okay, Pyke. This probably won't matter that much for support Pyke, but it will hurt mid and top lane Pyke quite a bit, which is good. I think those champions are kind of toxic. What I would have done with him is, like, nerf his healing, because that's what's really oppressive, is that you can just take trades in lane and then just run away and heal all of it back, and then, you know, with no cooldown on that at all. And so I think that's the worst part of it, but they decided to hit all of his wave clear. That will affect support the least, but there might be some circumstances where it matters. So your E can no longer wave clear, and your Q only hits 1 champion, so that doesn't wave clear. They also took out the 15% stab damage, so that will hurt his all-in in every lane. They did give you a slightly lower cooldown early on, so you can fish for hooks more as support. Probably not going to matter, though. You did get a little bit of extra movement speed if you choose to level this up. I mean, 60 extra movement speed is nice. Or like an extra 20% on top of what you already had. That will let you roam a lot. But I still think you're probably going to want Phantom Undertow. We'll see. I mean, maybe the movement speed is enough, but he'll probably still be all right. I think he's floating around 50%. You know, maybe he drops to 49 or something like that. I don't think it's going to matter that much for support Pyke, but it probably will knock him out significantly of the other lanes. I don't even think he had that high of a win rate in mid lane. I think there were just like pro players that were playing him. I guess he did have a pretty high win rate. So he'll probably go down to like 51, 50, maybe mid lane. So decent nerf, 1 or 2%. Sejuani is very strong right now, so they're nerfing some of her tankiness in the late game, and she's doing a little bit less damage with her W. I think she'll still be good. Probably not going to matter that much. Now, the Sivir nerf is going to be pretty significant. Like, this is a big deal. That's 25% more mana cost on Ricochet early. She already has mana problems before she gets Essence Reaver. You know, she throws like 2 or 3 boomerangs and she's out of mana in the early game. And now this Ricochet is going to cost you a ton as well at all levels, not even scaling. It's at all levels at 75. So I think you're going to yourself a lot in lane, and you're going to have to use your spell shield much more aggressively to try to get mana, which is going to open you up to getting all in a lot more. So I think she deserved it. I mean, she had a really high win rate. This might be a little bit too hardcore. I wish they would have just nerfed like the damage on her Ricochet or something. Like nerfed her late game a little bit more, but I mean, she's 55% win rate, like almost 2. She's like 1% over second place Jinx with a much higher play rate, with like, you know, 70-80% higher play rate. So yeah, something needed to be done about her, because pretty much everyone that gets autofilled plays her. And let's see, it's like the other autofill champs are, you know, 48%, 50%, and then 55%. Basically a chance to get played a ton. So I think she did need to be nerfed. So we'll see. I think this is going to be very significant to her. I think she'll fall like 3%. I think she'll go down to like 52% after this. So I think she'll still be playable, but pretty big nerf. Because she's just going to run out of mana, be very vulnerable on her first few backs. And combine this with the Essence Reaver nerf, which we'll talk about here in a second, I think we'll definitely drag her down about 3%. So that's going to open up a space for Jinx to rise a little bit here. Caitlyn will probably go up a little bit here. Now, Caitlyn's really hard to play, but Sivir is surprisingly pretty good into Caitlyn because she basically nullifies the traps. She can use her spell snare to get rid of the traps and get free mana. And then she can match her push, or she has been able to match her push, but it's going to be a lot harder to do that now. So this stuff right here doesn't matter, but it's a very big hit to her mana. So, you know, first 5, 6 levels, maybe even like 7, 8 levels until she gets Essence Reaver, it's going to be a big problem, mana-wise. Okay, Sona. Sona needed to be nerfed. Now, they're probably only nerfing her because of the Sona Taric bot lane combo in Pro. But even at Platinum Plus, she still has, as a support role, she still has like a 54%. That really shouldn't happen. A champion that's like that easy to play, I mean, and we say this with Janna being here as well, someone who's that popular and that easy to play really shouldn't have a win rate that's that high, especially one that scales that well later on into the game. Okay, well, she broke that framework, so they're saying it's not just because of bot lane. Okay. Well, I think it is good that they're nerfing Sona instead of Taric in that combo, because poor Taric just can't catch a break. He always is part of these cheese comps, and he's the one that always gets hit rather than the other person. Which, if he's always part of the comps, I guess that is an issue, but anyways. Aura damage ratio. Now, that's just the aura, I think. That's not her Q base. There's 2 parts to her Q. There's like the stuff that shoots out that does the damage, and then there's the aura, which empowers auto attacks. I think this is just the aura portion. I don't think it's going to affect your base damage. I don't know if this is updated or not. Yeah. So it's not as impactful as people think. People might see this and be like, oh my god, that's crazy. She still has a 0.5 on the baseline Q, and remember that hits twice almost always, so it still has a 1.0 ratio. If they just got rid of the ratio completely on her bonus aura, I still think she would be pretty strong. So they're getting rid of a third of it. But you got to remember, this is nutty damage, like by itself. You're paying 70 mana for 320 damage with a 1.0 AP ratio that can't miss, that's not a skill shot, that has like 825 range. Like, you're getting almost a 5-to-1 mana ratio. Oh, and by the way, it also empowers your entire team to do bonus damage. You know, somewhere, like, even just the base, if it had no AP ratio, it would give, you know, if you hit everyone on your team, an extra 150 damage. So that means this would do, like, a 470 base damage with a 1.0 ratio on a normal ability that, once you get CDR and her passive, is on, like, a 3-second cooldown. It still sounds like it's fine to me. So it's not going to matter that much, especially if you're going the proper build on support Sona, where you go Athene's Ardent Censer. Like, yes, you do get some AP, but, you know, her W is still intact, and this is what's really OP in the team fights. Like, this is good, but this is, like, for laning phase is really where this shines, like, early on. It's this W later on that's really the beast, because it gives a 220 heal to 2 different people, like 110 to each person. And then this 125 shield, if you tag all 5 people with this, at 625 base with a 1.5 ratio, on top of that 220 heal. So that's like 850 base healing and shielding with a potential for 2.0 AP ratio. So if you have 200 AP, which is not that uncommon later on in the game, right? You get your Ardent Censer, your Athenes, and your Frostfang, and you're pretty much there with runes. You know, that's going to be 1,200-ish base healing and shielding, not including any plus healing and shielding that you might get. So your Ardent Censer, you're going to get an extra 10% there. You get a Redemption, that's another 10%, that's 20%. You get Revitalize, that's another 5%, that's 25%. And then if they're lower than 40% health, then the entire thing is multiplied by an additional, you know, 10%. So we're talking like you could very easily in team fights off of like 2 items when your W is maxed, get somewhere between, 1,000 to 1,500 healing and shielding on your team that's on like a 4-second cooldown. By comparison, like Soraka's W is on a shorter cooldown. It's like a 2-second cooldown, but it heals 1 person for like 210 and damages yourself. This heals herself too. I mean, so it's basically like you're casting 1 cast of this in a team fight is about the equivalent of 5 Soraka Ws, something like that. And Soraka heals a lot. So that's something that people don't understand about her most of the time, is that just like the numbers are just ridiculous on her abilities, especially the W. Like 1,000 to 1,500 affected plus healing and shielding. The way that scales with armor and magic resist is just nutty. Like it just basically, if she gets 2 of these casts off, so if the fight goes longer than like 4 seconds and she doesn't die and your team doesn't get instantly obliterated, you win the fight, especially when you consider she's going to be dropping a redemption in here as well, and she's going to be doing Athene's Unholy Grail healing. It's just insane. And she's not even as weak to grievous wounds as someone like Soraka is, because a lot of this is a shield, right? Like the 625 base of this with the 1.5 ratio is a shield. It's not even a heal. So it doesn't get reduced by grievous wounds or ignite or, anything like that. So she's still going to be really strong is what I think. This doesn't even matter. It's like, okay, people move a little bit less. Like, all right. I mean, that's what you max last. I guess the ratio, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same ratio at all levels. But, when you have 200 AP, you're going to be moving 16% instead of, 6? I guess that does matter. You're moving 16% instead of 22%. Honey? So this does hurt her ability to rotate. It does make her a little bit less safe. But I still think she'll be good. So she might miss in bot, like as a support. You might see 1% knocked off of her. I would be surprised if it's even that much. I would guess maybe 0.5%. I mean, what is she sitting at right now? 53. I'm going to say 53 flat. About 53% after this change. So I still think she'll be fine. Okay, Sylas, they're buffing him up a little bit. They just cannot decide with this champion. My God, how many times has he been changed in the last, like, half a year? So they're giving him a little more tankiness with his 3 points. Why are they doing that? And they're encouraging you to max Kingslayer now, which is the thing that made him really toxic to begin with. They're trying to get people. So what they did was Kingslayer was OP. So they nerfed Kingslayer several times. They buffed Q to try to get people to take Q instead. And then last patch they nerfed Q a lot. And I guess his win rate fell more than they wanted. So now they're buffing W again to try to entice people to pick W instead of Q, because they're like, oh, giving him a lot of wave clear and like really good AoE damage with his Q. People figured out maybe they should have been maxing Q anyways. Then that was too strong. So now they're giving Kingslayer back damage. That's a lot of damage, just 25 extra damage. Now, I think the heal has still been nerfed. So the heal is not as good as it was, but we'll see. I don't know. I can't even keep up with all the changes and everything that's happened. I'm going to say probably still good in Pro. Probably not that great in solo queue, but I think they could have just left him, man. It's fine. I mean, I guess his win rate is pretty bad, but it's just, he's just a champion that's always going to be that way in solo queue. It's just like a Kali. Irelia, Rise. I mean, these guys are always going to be in the penalty box because pros are just too good on them. I mean, they can try to flatten the curve and take away some of the skill expression, but that's part of what makes the champion fun. So, I mean, 42 is pretty low. I guess they probably want him around 44 or 45, so that's fine. Hey, Syndra, mana growth per level. All right, so she gets 50 extra mana at level 5. It's like one more spell cast, like not even. I guess. I don't know why they want her back in the meta. She's pretty frustrating to play against. I mean, I guess she is a counter in pro play to certain types of like mid-range champs. I don't know exactly. Like, I think she's really good in a Zoe. So I'm not 100% who she's like, what the matchups are with her, but maybe she counters some things that are really strong right now in the meta, and they want that back. She is kind of a lot longer range poke champ. So maybe they want something like that in the meta. They don't want it to be Cassiopeia, so now they're tapping Syndra to sort of give her that chance. A like sort of long range burst to try to counteract some of these scaling champions that just want to have a really weak laning phase. So maybe they want a more lane dominant champion middle that's not named Cassiopeia. So maybe she stands up to things like Akali and Sylas and things like that better than other champs. I don't really know the matchups, but they must have a reason for doing that. Okay. Syndra's currently not a must pick in higher levels of play like she has been in the past. So they want to take this opportunity to boot. Okay, that's worded really weirdly. So it sounds like they want to make her into a must pick, but I don't think that's what they mean. It's just grammar's hard, I guess. So they could have just said, Syndra is in a weak state right now in pro play. We want to make her viable. Instead of this, like, not a must pick, so we want to do this to boost her. Well, so what they're saying is she's not pick ban, so she's not good, so they can afford to power her up a little bit. But it sounds like they want to make her must pick, but I don't think that's what they mean. Okay. Tristana. Now, this is a pretty big buff on Tristana. Don't forget, you can activate this twice in all in, sometimes multiple times. You could even get 3 of these off. So this could be anywhere from 20 to 30 damage in the early game especially. And she's already, like, pretty good in the right circumstances. She requires a snowball early on. And, like, she can get pushed in and bullied out early. But I think she's been rising up a little bit. Yeah, she's close to 50%. I guess you can buff her, but this champion's really dangerous to buff because she's both very safe late game. She's very difficult to get a hold of if she gets ahead, and she has the potential to snowball early because she has really, really strong all-in damage, especially level 2. So she pairs together really well with champions like Leona, Nautilus. I guess they want the all-in champions to be able to compete with things like Lux, Karma, Sona, Janna, Nami, Yumi, these poke champions. The all-in engaged champs do need a little love. They are on the weak side right now, aside from Nautilus, which I don't even think Nautilus is that strong. He's pretty good. He's one of the only ones that's up there, though, I think, that's anywhere even close. Yeah, he's fallen down a little bit. But just, like, look at this lineup. Enchanter, 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 basically Enchanter, Enchanter, Mage, whatever Bard is. Enchanter, basically Enchanter, and Nautilus. So you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Enchanters before you get to 1 engaged champ. Or, I mean, maybe you call some of these, maybe Bard's a Mage, maybe you want to call Zillion a Mage or Lux or whatever. But 6 like ranged AP Enchanter-esque type of champions. And then you have Nautilus at 51. Then you go all the way down again until you get to Blitzcrank at 50. Pyke and Leona squeak in at about 50%. And Thresh. So that's kind of where all the rest of them hang out. And then Alistar's below that. Braum's way below that. So Galio's in the gutter. So I guess this is okay. This is like a good champion if you have those types of champs. You want to snowball hard early with the Leona, with the Thresh. It's good. Because what you do is you just throw your bomb on somebody and then you jump on them with your rocket jump, get a couple of shots off. And then once the bomb blows up, then you get a reset. Then you can jump on the next person. Or then you can jump on that same person you just jumped on. So if they don't flash the first one, they're taking a lot of damage. Bomb explodes, land on them a second time. They're taking even more damage. You kill that person, then you can jump onto the support or whoever else is there and just keep bouncing around. So she does take towers really quickly as well, too. I mean, her main problem is she's really short early on, or like short range. She is short in general. She's a Yordle. But she's short ranged early on, and her explosive shot makes it very difficult to last hit on her tower. So if you're getting pushed in by like a Sivir or a Caitlyn or a Jinx or something like that, you're going to miss a lot of CS under tower. And that's historically why you don't see her a lot in pro, because she can't manage waves very well. She can't last hit on her tower. And if you're trying to freeze, you can't really freeze. It just makes it a lot harder to manage waves. And that's a huge part of winning, especially in higher elo brackets. in the bot lane. But she does make up for that because she's very safe with her W. It's not only a jump, but it buffers, so it can block a lot of CC when you time it correctly. She ends up having really long range with a great steroid on her Q. Her R does a ton of base damage, like 300 base damage, and it can knock people back. She gets those resets and fights, so she can jump around to multiple people. She can blow up towers really easily with her bombs to take plates. So there's a lot of scenarios where Tristana really could start going off and be really, really strong. Just her build path, she's a bit slower than other champions, and she has bad wave management. But this might be enough. I mean, I would expect her to gain at least 1% off of this, go to 51, maybe 52%, especially off of Sivir getting nerfed. Sivir might run out of mana trying to push her in. Okay, Udyr. So you can put more points in him. I like that they're just, you get to pick 3 things basically instead of just having to put like a few points in like some trash ability at the end for your last few levels. They did dial this back a little bit on the Tiger Q, so where it's not like oppressively strong, it's only 0.05 more attack scaling, but you do get the 30 base damage off of it. So Tiger Stance will probably still be what people get maxing. The rest of the stuff is kind of whatever. The Phoenix Stance, this used to be your go-to ability back when there was more AoE like clearing in the jungle, but now there's a lot more single target stuff that you want to be focusing out. So, and you want to be able to take dragons and obviously kill champions quickly and things like that. So it would probably still be Tiger Stance, but they are nerfing Phoenix Stance where you get an extra 10 damage early on. Cone damage that you do to multiple targets, and it goes up to 75 extra damage. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of damage in Teamfight, so I don't know. I'd have to look at the abilities, but I think with just the itemization the way it is now, that you still want to do Tiger, it's just, it synergizes so well with like Trinity Force and Warrior, just having that extra AD ratio. Phoenix Stance, I believe, has really terrible scaling. I mean, I could just look at him here real quick. Phoenix Stance, I believe, has terrible scaling, and it's AP, so it just feels pretty bad, I think. Once again, back in the old days, this would be what you would get. Yeah, it's AP scaling. Around himself every 4 seconds, dealing magic damage to all nearby enemies. Magic, okay, so it does magic damage per second. At 3 stacks, he does a cone. Each second, nearby, as well as instantly generating 3 Phoenix stacks. Oh, that's when you first turn into it. Okay. So if they take all 3 of these hits, it does damage over time. I mean, a 1.0 AP ratio is cool. I guess you do have an AP ratio on your turtle stance. There's aren't a lot of, like, tankish AP items. I mean, maybe someone will come up with a goofy build that could use this, but I just feel like it just doesn't really fit the itemization right now. It's in the game, the runes, all that kind of stuff. I think people still take, what do they take, like PTA or something on him. Probably just press the attack, Tiger Stance. It's just kind of the best for dueling early. It's the best for taking towers, dragons, all that stuff. This gives you a lot of attack speed, gives you a lot of damage. Yeah, I just think it's not going to matter that much. So it is nice that you can get 1 extra point in Tiger early, so you can really, like, you know, snowball off of that. Gives you a longer window of relevancy, because he does start to fall off pretty hard later, because now you don't have to waste points in other things as often. So it's good. It's a buff. I mean, he's already got a pretty good win rate, I believe. So I think he'll probably go up like 1%. Yeah, he's up there. 53.5. I mean, he might be the highest win rate jungler after this. We'll see. I mean, Nunu's really good too, but I think he'll be at least 54. 54, maybe 54.5%. I think overall it's pretty good. It's going to allow him in the mid game to be a bit more relevant. Oh, she's making a mess. All right, Essence Reaver. This is really rough on Sivir, and I know that's who they're intending to hit with this. It kind of sucks they're hitting Xayah, because Xayah is a fun champion. I do like playing Rakan. I really only play him with Xayah right now, but I guess Trendemir's been abusing this as well. Who else? There's been a couple of other abuse cases with this item, but it's mostly for Sivir. It's just, I wish they would give some compensatory buffs to the other champions that aren't as good, like Xayah, that still need this. I feel like Xayah's not, I mean, she's not terrible right now, but what is she, like 51% or something? Yeah, I just overlook her. Yeah, she's basically 51%. So I think this is going to knock Xayah down a little bit. I mean, Xayah can just go a standard more Infinity Edge type of thing, but as this sucks. Not only, like, 100 gold doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it messes with the build path because it forces you to go BF Sword instead of Pickaxe. And one of the really nice things was if you could force them into an early back, like if you get a kill early, you could just go back and get a Pickaxe. Or if they, like, back for a tier early, you could get a Pickaxe and get ahead of them. Now that you have to get a BF Sword, it's going to make your timing windows a lot tighter. And you might... It's going to be that dreaded, okay, I just got to kill level 3, but now I need 200 gold to BF. I have to stay for 2 more waves. And then it just screws up all of your timing and wave management. That happens so much with BF Swords. So... And that really gave her... A lot of champions have to deal with that, but they gave her a much better buy window than some other champs. So, yeah, I think that's going to hurt. I think anybody that uses this is probably going to drop a percent. And in the case of Sivir, like I said, I think she's going to go down, what I say, 2 or 3%, because her W nerf's pretty intense as well. Randuin's Omen. Now, this is very, very good for tanks. A lot of people, like, don't understand exactly what this item does, and I think it's really, really overlooked right now, because you have crit users not only in the bot lane, but they're popping up in other lanes as well. You know, we're seeing, like, some crit Kindred builds getting kind of popular. You're seeing champions like Tryndamere, you know, becoming more popular in the top lane. So let me just pull up this item real quick. So basically what it does is it reduces the damage, not just the critical strike damage, but all damage, even from the base attack whenever anybody crits. And I think that's something that a lot of people really underestimate. Everybody just goes for Dead Man's Plate because it has that movement speed, right? So it's 60, you get 25 more health on it. Then you get that extra damage on hit, and you get the extra movement speed. So people just oftentimes do that because movement speed's so important, and it's usually like a top laner or a jungler, so someone who's either going to be working a side lane or ganking a lot. Because there really aren't a lot of, like, the stationary tanks as much anymore. You know, the Malakais, the Ornns, things like that. And your top laners are also competing with Sunfire Cape. So it's basically the same stats, and Sunfire Cape's even cheaper. It's 2750, and it helps you with wave clear and puts out pretty decent damage in teamfight. So it's 6425. So it's not that Randuin's was bad. It's just that, like, a lot of times people either wanted the mobility or they wanted the wave clear. But now that this is cheaper at 2700, I think that's a lot more appropriate. It's closer to Sunfire. It does the 6400, but critical strikes, minus 20% critical strike damage. But I'm like 99% sure, when I've read this before, refers to an effect that deals increased damage under specific circumstances. So, like, basically, if someone auto-attacks you for 200 damage and it crits to 400 damage, or let's just make it easier math here. Let's say it's 250 damage and it crits to 500. It's going to block 20% of that, so it's going to block 100 damage. Okay, so it's 20% of the total damage dealt to 500. It's not 20% of the 250. So it's not only going to block the 50 damage, it blocks 100 damage because it's the everything, not just the bonus damage that crit does, but the entire damage. So that is very strong. Particularly, they're like almost every top end AD carry right now is crit, especially after the Blade and King nerfs. You know, Vayne's fallen out of favor a lot. I guess Kai'Sa doesn't always get crit, and Ezreal doesn't always get crit. But if you think about, like, Jinx, Sivir, Twitch, Xayah, Jin's still pretty popular. A lot of these champions are going to get crit. And so if they have crit, Yasuo, always a popular champion, is going to have a lot of crit as well. I think this is really good. And it cripples their attack speed by 15%. I'm not going to explain everything that cripple does here mathematically, but basically it's better than, like, a 15% attack speed increase does not offset a 15% cripple. The cripple is better because it hits the base amount that the attack speed scales off of. So it's basically, just think about it, it's a better version of slowing attack speed, the cripple. There's a reason they don't have many cripples left in the game. Cripple, that sounded kind of weird. There's a reason they don't have many effects that cripple enemy attack speed in the game. And that the ones that they have, like Frozen Heart, have been nerfed over time because it's a really, really strong effect. Okay. And very good against attack speed champions, too. Obviously. So even things like Master Yi, even if they aren't getting on a crit, sometimes just having that cold steel can be helpful as well. And then, of course, it has the slow also. So if you want to stick to people, getting that 55% slow for 2 seconds can be quite useful as well. So very, very good item. Very, very underrated. And this buff is really nice. So I like it. And that makes it almost even affordable for like a support to get this now. So, you know, you could almost, I have to think about it, you know, in the right circumstances though, you know, I could see someone like a Braum or an Alistar or Leona or Nautilus or something like that, maybe getting this item. It's probably still better to go like Zeke's Knight's Vow, but there might be some circumstances where this is a little more reasonable with a lower cost. Okay, Rod of the Ages. I like that they're buffing this. I think there are a lot of good Rod champions that have just kind of been screwed over because the meta's so fast right now. So 100 gold off of this is really nice. It's already a very efficient item. People just don't get it. I think it's like 150% efficiency, which is really nice for a an early item. So a lot of people still go Ludens. Ludens does give you like that immediate power spike, and it gives you the extra wave clear, the extra poke damage. So a lot of people are probably still going to go Ludens, but I think the champions that want Rod will probably, you know, this will certainly be good for them. Although I don't think it's going to move around win rates. There's not anyone offhand where I'm like, wow, this is really going to, you know, help a ton. Like maybe Aurelion Sol, maybe something like Swain, maybe something like Kassadin. Maybe they gain like 0.5% off of this. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to move the needle a ton. But I think in certain matchups with certain champions, it certainly could help. Okay. Your shop returns. You get discounts on stuff. That's cool. Text damage updates. I haven't seen it. We'll just have to look and see. Anything that gives more clear information for viewers and players, I think is good. Okay, so they fix this. So it no longer ignores your pings. Good. The mute all is nice. Now, I will say, just to kind of finish up, well, we're pretty much out of time. The champions, I'm really shocked that they didn't nerf. Like, I'm really surprised they didn't nerf Lux on this patch. I feel like she's getting a ton of pro play right now. She is very strong in almost all matchups. There's not a lot of counterplay to her. So Lux is someone that I was a little surprised about as far as nerfs go. Yumi's probably fine. She doesn't have a huge win rate. She can be very strong if you're good on her. Yeah, I'm surprised about that. But I think overall they did hit most of the prominent champions. Jinx is getting close to being a problem, especially if they nerf Sivir out. But I mean, she's so immobile that like there are counterplay opportunities for her. Tom Kench in the top lane, I'm surprised, hasn't been nerfed a little bit. He seems very unfun to play against. I haven't played it, but he seems very strong in a lot of matchups. A little surprised about that. I think that's about it. So I think overall they've done a pretty good job balancing most. Hecarim still feels a little on the strong side in my games. But I think for the most part, there aren't that many champions where I'm just like, dang, that champion is ridiculous. They're too overpowered most of the time. I think it's in a pretty good state. I know a lot of people are crying about Mordekaiser being really OP. Like, he can be really good, but you got to remember, you can Quicksilver Sash, like, out of his ult. So once people figure that out, I think that lowers his power quite a bit. And I think there are, like, ranged matchups that are good. I'm not 100% about that, but I feel like a Victor, a Cannon, or something can be good into him. But Anyways, I want to finish the video before an hour long, so thank you very much for tuning in. We'll stop at 59 minutes here. As always, I appreciate it. Be sure to check out the rest of the tier list that I'm going to release. I'm going to release several on this patch. Come by, check out the stream, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. It's free. It's easy. Just takes a couple of clicks if you want to support the channel. Be sure to hit that join button. It's just $5 a month. Helps out a ton. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.